I have talked about compilations on this YouTube channel quite a bit in the past. I've opened up several compilation discs in the past as well, from Namco Museum Volume 3 to Midway Arcade Treasures to Capcom Classics Collection. We've opened these up and I've really enjoyed them because compilations give you a bunch of arcade games for one price and you can access them and play them to your heart's content. Now, for those who may not have watched this channel before, maybe this is the first video that you've seen, I grew up in arcades, starting in the very late 1970s when my grandmother would take me to Mall Arcade when I was like 7 or 8, to hanging out in arcades as a preteen and a teenager through the 80s, where that's where I spent a lot of my time on weekends or whenever I could during the summer when I could walk down there. So playing games like Gorf, Popeye, Wizard of War, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Track and Field, Hypersports, games like these that I would play over and over and over again as much as I could with the limited amount of money that I had coming from a poor family. So if I couldn't play, I would be watching. But I always wanted to be able to play these games at home. And while we did have to make compromises to get these games home, we saw conversions of games like Space Invaders, Asteroids, Missile Command, Pac-Man, on the Atari 2600, which I played at my maternal grandmother's house. And then when I got my Commodore VIC-20 in 1984, followed by the Commodore 64 when I got out of 8th grade in 1986, I was able to play better-looking arcade conversions such as Gorf, which I had versions of for both systems, Omega Race, Radar Rat Race, which is basically a conversion of Rally X, Boot Camp, which is a lesser-known Konami arcade game that plays a lot like Track and Field. Congo Bongo is another one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. There are some others that I played as well, like bootleg versions of Super Mario Brothers that were as close as I would get until I got my NES in 1990. So compilations are always going to be near and dear to my heart, which is why I open a lot of them on this particular series, and this episode is no exception. I know that we just opened up a couple of compilation discs in January, so this is the second compilations episode in this season, but I'm very excited to open these because we have one from Namco, one from Midway, and one from SEGA. So we're going to open all three in this episode, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. Yes, I am wearing my Pac-Man shirt, which means that I'm going to be starting with Namco Museum. Now, we have opened up Namco Museum 25th anniversary, I believe, for the PS2, which is a game that seemed to be patterned at least slightly after Activision Anthology, another compilation that I opened, where you got some 80s music playing in the arcade background, and then when you were playing the games, they were pretty much perfect emulations. This, however, is not a perfect emulation, but still sold very well, sold enough, in fact, to become a greatest hits title. I'm talking about the original Namco Museum release, which came out for the PS2 in December of 2001. It came out soon afterwards for the original Xbox and for the GameCube as well. And as you can see, this is the Black Label version. This is the version that came out in 2001 or perhaps 2002. You had to get it in stores. This is a little bit older, so the sealing has seen better days, so I'm glad to be able to remove this today. Now, this particular compilation was actually put together by Mass Media, and although Namco had some input, Namco didn't seem to have as much to do with this, and it does show because the versions of the games that are here don't seem to be quite correct emulations. They seem to be more like conversions, or they make a couple of changes to make the games work on the PS2 pretty well. And I know it's going to be difficult to see because of the way that I have it lit, but we have Pac-Man, we have Galaga, we have Dig Dug, we have Miss Pac-Man, Galaxian, and the two pole position games. This, by the way, is on a blue-backed compact disc, so if your PS2 only plays DVDs, the silver-backed discs, you're not going to want to get this one. I would actually recommend the Namco Museum 25th Anniversary myself. What's unique about this is there are actually three different arranged versions of arcade games. We have Pac-Man arrangement, Dig Dug arrangement, and Galaga arrangement. So these were brand new. You could not play these anywhere else on any other console or platform or in any other compilation before this one. And when I open this up and we take a look at the instruction manual, we'll talk about the arrangements a little bit more. So taking a look at the back of the case, again, I'll show you the screenshots one more time, and then I'll read the little blurb on the back here, as we always do on the show. The PlayStation 2 computer entertainment system is getting the classic treatment as an all-new Namco Museum hits home with all of the retro gaming goodness that this series is famous for. Only now it's bigger and better than ever. Well, we'll see about that. Itching to get your hands on yesteryear's hottest arcade hits? Well, look no further as Namco transports you back to the good old days when gameplay was king, no tokens needed. And back when Pac-Man and Galaga were a thing, actually used quarters. This was before tokens were really a thing as well. So again, we do have the Namco Museum sticker on the top here, so we know that this is legitimate. Again, this is a black label copy, so I'm very excited to own this because the copy that I have is a greatest hits copy. And again, because it is a blue-backed CD, I don't like having these that are used because having the cleaner discs takes, at least in my experience, seems to take a little bit less of a toll on the PlayStation 2's drive. By the way, it is the PlayStation 2's 20th anniversary out of Japan today as I film this on March 4th, so happy birthday PS2. We'll be talking more about the PS2 on repeat as we get closer to the US anniversary in September. Let's go ahead and open this up. Yep, there we go. And we'll take the wrapping off of here, and then we'll take a look at the instruction manual. And we are just getting started. I do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, and I hope that you're enjoying as I get these games open. So take this off. And let's see if we can get the ID stickers off. Sometimes I struggle with these and I just wind up ripping it open because I don't feel like taking up too much of your time. And especially since we're opening up 2 more discs in this episode, we don't really want to dawdle. There we go. So when we open up the case, and I want to make sure I open it straight so that the disc came loose during shipping and doesn't fall out. And it looks like it's in good shape. So I'll turn the disc around. So as you can see, that is what we have. We have the Namco Museum instruction manual here. We have the disc here, which looks pretty cool. I like the white, red, and yellow background. And again, it is a blue-back disc, so keep that in mind if you're thinking about getting this compilation for yourself. We're going to take the instruction manual out. Going to place that over there. And on the back, we have a list of all of the games that we have on the disc. So we have Pac-Man, Pac-Man arrangement, Galaga, Galaga arrangement, Dig Dug, Dig Dug arrangement, Pole Position, Pac-Man, Pole Position 2, and Galaxian. So quite a list of games here. It looks like 9. I think there are some hidden games here as well. When we open this up, this is a fairly lengthy manual. Unfortunately, it is in black and white. It's a little bit disappointing. Each game is listed with a little bit of history as well as how to play it. So we have Pac-Man here, how to play the game. We have Pac-Man arrangement, which is this right here. And with Pac-Man arrangement, it plays the same way as Pac-Man, but the stages have been redone. There are some added features such as jumps and other things as well. So I find that to be pretty fascinating. It is not my favorite game, but it's certainly more appealing to me than the original Pac-Man, which I will admit I am not very good at playing. However, I am a fan of the character, as you can see. There's some warp tunnels, Pac-dash arrows, that's the thing that I was thinking of. Warp gates, large ghosts, and more. So that's Pac-Man arrangement. Galaga, of course, which is a game that I got better at as an adult. It's one of the few games that I can say that I really didn't like so much when I was young, but now that I'm older and I have had more access to playing it at home and have gotten rather skilled at it, it's become one of my favorite games of all time. Galaga arrangement is pretty interesting. It's not an arrangement, though, that I'm a big fan of, but it's here if you need it. We also have Dig Dug here, a game that, just like Galaga, I got better at as an adult, and Dig Dug arrangement is here as well, and that's actually pretty fun. What else do we have? We have Pole Position, which I played a lot at a pool hall near where my maternal grandmother lived. I would walk down to that pool hall and play Pole Position as well as Tutankhamun, Mr. Do, and Donkey Kong Jr. Wow. Memories come flooding back here. Pole Position 2 is here. Miss Pac-Man is here. Galaxian is here. Pac Attack, I believe, is hidden. It is a locked game. You have to get 25,000 points or more in Pac-Man in order to unlock it. And yes, Pac-Mania is here too, and you have to get 20,000 points in Miss Pac-Man to unlock it. Pac-Mania, by the way, deserves much more run than it's gotten in the video game community. I really enjoy this game. The ability to have Pac-Man jump around a maze really added a different dimension of gameplay, and I really enjoyed it. Is this the best Namco Museum? No. The best Namco Museum is actually going to be the Namco Museum, I believe it was Virtual Arcade for the Xbox 360, which has a ton of games on it. It has some Xbox Live Arcade games on it as well. It is a lot of fun to play. It's too bad, unfortunately, that Namco didn't give the green light for that to be backwards compatible, because I would definitely be playing that now for my Xbox One. Is this worth owning? I think it's tough to say. I actually think that the Namco Museum 25th anniversary is a little bit better in my opinion, but this is the only way you're going to play the arranged version of the game. So if you like to play something different, or at least a different take on some of your favorite arcade games of yesteryear, then you may want to seek this out. All right, and here we go. We lost the game, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back in here. And I'll be upgrading my Namco Museum copy. All right. Let's move on. Namco, of course, needs no introduction in the arcade space, and this next manufacturer / publisher needs no introduction either. I don't have to go into a long spiel about why they're important in arcades. Could you be able to figure it out when you see who it is? I am talking about Midway, and this is Midway Arcade Treasures 2 with 20 arcade games on here, and these, my friends, are heavy hitters, and we're going to go over that list here in just a moment. While Midway Arcade Treasures had a bunch of different arcade games on there, and they were smaller, this really reflects more on the 1980s and especially 1990s. In the upcoming Insert Coin documentary, which is going to go over Midway arcade games of the 90s, you're going to recognize some important names from there as well. So, Own the Arcade is what it says in the back there, and you can see a bunch of different cabinets, and we're going to talk about what's there. Blast into the past with the coolest collection of old school titles ever to smash out of the vaults in Midway. Rediscover the retro fun of single and multiplayer arcade favorites such as Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, Narc, Gauntlet 2, Pit Fighter, and Spy Hunter 2. It's a non-stop game on with hundreds of hours of nostalgia-fueled play and bonus DVD content that features the origins of many of these classic masterworks. One of the cool things about the Midway Arcade Treasures series going on DVD is that there was enough storage media to be able to take a lot of interviews and a lot of trivia and put some extras on there. So it's a lot like a DVD. You can play the content and enjoy it to your heart's content. But then, if you want to find out more about the history, there's some extra features there that you can check out that will tell you more about Mortal Kombat or will tell you more about Narc. And I've always found that to be fascinating. In fact, when I play these games now and I pop them into my PS2, I actually watch the extras first before I start getting into gameplay. So there's quite a few games here. I'm going to run down the list, although a few of them were mentioned already. Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 really need no introduction. These were important arcade games in the 1990s. Mortal Kombat 3, of course, being an early PlayStation exclusive in late 1995, and that helped to propel the PlayStation forward past the Saturn. Gauntlet 2. If you like the original Gauntlet, I think Gauntlet 2 offers more. There was a version of that for the NES, which was okay, and of course Gauntlet 4 for the Genesis, but Gauntlet 2 is the real deal and plays just like the arcade. Zybots, a game that a lot of people forgot about, that is here. Narc, which was also an NES conversion, that is here. And interestingly enough, there was a remake or reboot of Narc for the PS2, and the original Narc arcade game is an unlockable there as well. APB, which I remember playing in arcades. I believe that was either late 80s or early 90s. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, and my old man memory is failing me here. But that was a pretty interesting game. I liked how it played and how it sounded. It certainly didn't take itself overly seriously, and I think that's why I enjoyed it, even though I was never really very good at it. Cyberball 2072, a game that I played a lot in arcades, and I still play in arcades whenever I find it. Being a fan of retro sports games as I am, Cyberball, of course, taking the game of football and playing it with robots, and it was the right combination. It simplified football and yet added some wrinkles to the game to make it even more exciting, and the game plays very well on this compilation. Timber, a game that I had never played before having this compilation, and then I found it on the boardwalk at Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, so go figure. I actually knew how to play the game at that point and did pretty well when I did play. Total Carnage, the unofficial sequel to Smash TV, that is here. A lot of fun to play. Pit Fighter, at least the arcade version of Pit Fighter is better than the Super Nintendo or Genesis versions. I will reserve any other comments on the game at this point, as this is a family show. Wizard of War, a very cool game that had voice synthesis in the early 1980s, and one of those games that whenever I heard it talk, it always freaked me out. I have not really gotten much better at it in my adult years, but I still enjoy going back to it time and again. Xenophobe is here. I'm not really going to talk much about Xenophobe in this particular episode, as we're already running a bit long. Primal Rage, a game that some people really like, and it's certainly a neat idea, pitting dinosaur against dinosaur or dinosaur against some other creature in a prehistoric environment, but I did not like how difficult the moves were to pull off or difficult they were to memorize, and so I really didn't play it past a few credits just to kind of check it out for novelty's sake. Arch Rivals, NBA Jam's daddy. That is here. NBA Jam pulls some influence from Arch Rivals while it does a lot of its own thing. So if you've ever wondered what Midway was thinking with NBA Jam, I definitely recommend playing Arch Rivals. It is a lot of fun, and it's very easy to pick up and play. It's just 2-on-2, so there's not a lot of complication there. Rampage World Tour, never really a big Rampage fan, but I do respect its popularity. Cosmic Cruiser I don't know a lot about, so I'm just going to go buy that one. Championship Sprint, which is a racing game kind of based on or in the same universe as Super Sprint, which was ported to the NES, and I really played that. That was one of the first NES games that I got after getting my NES in 1990. Hard Drivin', which I remember playing a lot in arcades because it was basically a driving simulator with 3D polygons, so it looked really cool, but I was never very good at it. I was still really learning to drive at that point and getting my driving experience under me, so it took me a while to get any good at that game at all. And then Wacko is here as well. All right. I hope you like long episodes because this one is running long. We're already at the 16-minute mark. We're going to go ahead and take the security seal off, and then we're going to go ahead and get this guy open. You can still see, it looks like this came from Blockbuster. That's what you can see by the new price tag of $19.99 there. So that's kind of a neat fact. Let's go ahead and get this open. Maybe. There we go. So the only one of these that I haven't opened for the show, and maybe I can find a copy of it to do at a later time, would be Midway Arcade Treasures 3, which is basically a lot of racing games. But this is probably one of the heavy hitters just because of the time period and the games that are on here. The only Mortal Kombat that's missing, the only mainstream Mortal Kombat that's missing is Mortal Kombat 4. And the original Mortal Kombat, of course, which wound up being a bonus feature in, I believe it was Mortal Kombat Armageddon. You had to get, like, the limited edition version. All right, there we go. Always when I plan on doing multiple openings in an episode, they wind up running long. I love the color design, too, because I'm a big fan of the color green, so I love this. This is all green on the inside. You do see the instruction manual here. You see the disc, which is here. We're going to take a look at the instruction manual really quickly. We're not going to go too in-depth. There we go. We do have an ad on the back for Mortal Kombat Deception. So this was the second of the 3 Mortal Kombat games, like Mortal Kombat fighting games that came out for the PS2. Of course, there was also Shaolin Monks, which was fantastic and a game unto itself. So in Midway Arcade Treasures 2, we do have a black and white manual. Talks a little bit about the main menus and some other things, and it lists all the different games. There are single-player games. APB was a single-player game. Hard Driving was a single-player game because you didn't have multiple cabinets linked. However, all the other games are 2 players. Our Arch Rivals, like I said, great game. Championship Sprint is a lot of fun if you like racing games. Cyberball 2072, and so on and so forth. We also have a warranty card here. We're not going to go over that today, as I've gone over some Midway warranty cards in the past. And there's also an ad here for Shadow Hearts Covenant. Shadow Hearts, I believe the first 2 games were published by Midway, I think. Maybe they all were. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm having a crisis of confidence on what I remember now. This is a fantastic compilation, by the way. If you still have a PlayStation 2 or an Xbox, I believe it also came out for the GameCube, you should own this. You really should own this. It is very, very, very good. All right. last compilation. I know we're running long. Thanks for sticking with me. Now we're going to turn to the Sega side of the house. I did open a Sega Classics collection in a compilation episode a while back, which had the Sega Ages version of games like Outrun and Golden Axe and Alien Syndrome and things. This is a Sega Genesis compilation, and before we got like Sonic's Ultimate Sega Genesis Collection or the Sega Genesis Collection that we see now for the Switch, the Xbox One, and the PlayStation 4, we had this for the PlayStation 2. This is just the Sega Genesis Collection put together by the pros at Digital Eclipse. 28 classic games are promised here. We're going to go over what the different games are. I believe that this one left out Streets of Rage, I think. I don't see it listed here, and that was really the big complaint with this, because Streets of Rage, that trilogy, is very popular in the Genesis library, and having those games missing really kind of ticked some people off when this came out. So, 28 classic games, what this promises. There aren't a lot of words here, but I'll go over some of the highlights. Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle, Bonanza Brothers, Kid Chameleon, one of the toughest games of all time, Flicky, Gain Ground, Phantasy Star 2, 3, and 4, Super Thunderblade, Sword of Vermilion, Vector Man 1 and 2, Comic Zone, Virtua Fighter 2, Shadow Dancer, The Secret of Shinobi, Golden Axe, Sonic the Hedgehog, Echo the Dolphin, Rice Star, Columns, and more. In addition, there are some exclusive arcade titles that can be unlocked, as well as a museum filled with tips, history, videos, interviews, and artwork. Digital Eclipse does such a good job with these emulations, always has for a long time. They continue to do so. They did a spectacular job, I think, with the SNK Anniversary Collection, which I also opened on this channel a while back. Let's go ahead and get this guy open. There is not a seal on the way, by the way, on this one, as this came out much later. And after 2004, 2005, Sony finally did away with the ID labels at the top. So when we open this up, again, I just want to make sure the disc doesn't come out. And wow, there's no instruction manual in here. I'm wondering whether this was redone or this was just or whether this was just bad from the factory. Let me take a look at the disc. Yeah, I think this is just a defect from the factory. This is funny. So this is what's on the inside. There you go. So that's the instruction manual that just fell out, is just one small piece of paper, and then the Sega Genesis Collection disc. So really, we're not going to go much longer because I don't have an instruction manual to show you. This is another fantastic compilation, by the way. The PlayStation 2 had many different ones, and I've opened quite a few of them on the show. But if you like the Sega Genesis at all and you don't have one of the newer systems, or maybe you're like me and you're getting away from the newer systems and going back to old school, and you don't want to pull out all the cartridges, or you don't want to buy them one at a time, this is certainly a great collection to have. And the extras on here, I believe, are pretty neat. Wow, I've never really had that happen before. That is pretty interesting. I'm hoping this was a new copy. I got it from eBay, but who knows. So that's another look at some compilation discs. Again, some of my favorite things to open on this show. This Pac-Man shirt, by the way, if you were interested, I got it from Marshalls. So Marshalls or TJ Maxx, if you have one of those in your area, you may want to check there for a selection of Pac-Man clothing, including T-shirts and also a really cool sweatshirt that I got that you've seen me wear on Instagram or Twitter from time to time. As always, I thank you very much for taking the time to check out my work here on my YouTube channel. And we'll do one of these again real soon, including I have some magazines behind me that I'm looking forward to breaking into. But until the next time, my friends, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll do it again real soon. See you later.